Alright, so we had a question about building up deeper colors and blending colors in colored pencil. And it can be a little tricky because you have to keep in mind a lot of your color theory. And if it's been a hot second since you took color theory, or you didn't quite grasp all of the principles, especially in the paint mixing part, it takes a little bit of thinking. So one of the things I like to do when I'm looking for a depth of color is to pick several colors that are close to each other. That said, not every single color you want to draw is going to be available exactly in your color pencil of choice. Just going through and I guess like ASMRing with the color pencil sharpening here. So what I have picked out here is I have a range of reds, greens, and blues that I'm going to use throughout this rendering to kind of give us an idea. And I think what I'm going to render is maybe like a simple chair or something like that. So let's go ahead and get my basic form sketched in. It's going to be really light and simple. Just so I don't have to spend a ton of time doing this, I can spend more time. Oh, there goes all my perspective. I can spend more time actually rendering in color pencil here. Alright, this needs to come in a little bit more this way. And then let's go up. I kind of want to do one of those like old, like really plushy, not recliners, but like the comfy armchairs. Let's extend this out this way for the arm. Put an armrest there. Get a nice rounded surface. And recreate that over here. And let's give it some, you know, like old-fashioned, like claw legs. Okay. Mm-hmm.
For our 3x3 little like swatches,
Mm-hmm.
do they all have to be on the same piece of paper? Or
No.
we're turning them in digitally, right?
Yes, you're turning them in digitally. They can be on different pieces of paper.
So I just kept messing up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I don't expect you for those swatches to be like perfect. Oh, this leg needs to come down just a little bit further. There we go. That way the box that's kind of sitting here is, maybe this leg needs to come out like that. Okay. This is why I prefer to do all of my sketching and drawing. What I really need to do is just like make some basic sketches someday and have them ready to just copy over. That way I'm not redrawing my chair every single time, but for now, I don't know, it's probably good that you get to see somebody mess up, make mistakes, fix it. At least it hopefully makes you feel better when you have to do that. Okay. I'm going to erase out all of my extra lines. And in fact, I'm going to end up bringing in my kneaded eraser here and trying to lift out as much of the extra graphite as I can while still seeing just a little bit of it, because I don't necessarily want all of this blending into my color pencil when I go to blend. So the white eraser picks up things really nicely, and but it picks them up, you know, with extreme prejudice. It's gonna pull everything off. With the kneaded eraser, I can kind of tap it and try to lift it up just a bit. Another good solution is to draw simply in your 4H pencil first. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do anyway with my colored pencil is come back in and kind of reestablish some of these forms. And I think I want this to be a nice, like, green tweedy fabric. That's kind of what is living in my head right now. I'm actually going to start out with these browns to do some basically pre-shading or like an undercoloring to my drawing, using another color underneath your what we call perceived color, which is like our idea that this chair is green, can help give a little depth to what we call local color, which is like the color that is actually going on in that specific area. I'm pretty sure I have those straight and not reversed. Maybe I'll have to look them up in a bit just to make sure. I always have to look them up before I teach color theory. So I'm going to come in and just where there are like crevices and where things are receding into the upholstery is tucked into the chair, I am going to draw in some of these lines, and I'm going to, where they meet corners, kind of softly blend them into each other with a little bit of a curve. That is going to help me build up this color, like gently, but also keep that idea of the curve and the roundness to these cushions. So I wanted a nice across here, and right through here I'm going to keep it just a little bit lighter because I'm going to have just like a little bit more light hitting this part of the chair is my idea, but I am still going to have it in there. And then let's kind of bring this up, curve that around. I can even come around the outside a little bit, kind of gives it a bit of almost a backlight. Inside here, I'm gonna come just inside as though there's like almost that stitching line where there's a bit of the, piping that kind of comes along. And so I'm really in this brown, which if you wanted to keep everything very cool toned, you could choose a gray or the cross complement of the color. You would just want to choose, like, if I was doing green, the cross complement's orange, but I could try to find a more cool toned orange, which like sounds crazy because we think of orange as a warm color, but you can find stuff with like a little bit cooler undertone, or I might use a red. Would be another option, like a nice cool red. And so I'm going to bring all of this in and start building up my shadows just by going in and doing these lines first. Where I want shadows to extend a little bit, I will come in and just put in just a really light layer there. So like in here where it's all like a little bit recessed, I'm just lightly kind of putting that in. And you almost have to think about it of like sculpting with that light and shadow as your very first layer. One, it helps so much when you go in with your color, especially if you're trying to put in any sort of pattern, to have this figured out for yourself of, oh yeah, that's really where my light is hitting. And then you can render in the correct colors as far as like what's hitting your light. And okay, down through here we have another recessed area. And especially along the bottom of this cushion where it meets kind of the front frame of the chair. Okay. Okay, I've kept that pretty nice. Now I want to continue this this trend of keeping everything nice and parallel down through the legs. Fingers crossed. All right. So for the legs, I'm just going to sketch in like these darkest dark parts because I'm probably going to end up coming back in with a similar color if I want to keep them in like the wood. I like the legs that like are almost like little paws. Yeah. Yeah. They always made me, when I was little, think about like Beauty and the Beast. And
that ornamentation on furniture and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always made me think of like Beauty and the Beast, where like they chose to have that kind of ornamentation on the furniture so that it was like, oh yeah, this was like a dog that was transfigured.
They're gargoyle.
Oh yeah.
That and like the.
Oh yeah, those are, yeah. You know, Disney has done things to my brain that I can't undo. As far as like my perception of what things look like and how things are drawn. When I was little, like you could check out like Disney animation books, and I would sit and like try to copy their drawings.
Pixar is just unmatched.
Oh yeah, and Pixar too. Like I own so many like the art of Pixar books, like Box Trolls. I think it's maybe that's DreamWorks. I'll have to show you guys that. That's such a fun movie.
Have you heard about the story of how DreamWorks was created?
Yes. I know some of it. It's been a very long time though.
Basically, he worked at Disney.
Yeah.
He got fired, so then he made DreamWorks.
And he's like, I'm gonna start my own.
It's like a big old like joke about Disney.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's also oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what character in The Incredibles, the like boss that like fires him, that is like a joke about a Disney exec. Yeah, so I'm adding in these shadows. I'm thinking about where the light's going to be. I think I'm just going to kind of softly light it, not give it like a super direction. We could give it a directional light though. I guess I could have it like hitting more from this side. That's kind of what I've set it up to be. Right now I haven't committed to anything like too incredibly hard, except for maybe that I'm getting light from like a source right back here. And so anything over here I will darken. I'm gonna definitely darken in here and build that up. Ooh, I know I want to give those little like tufts. So let's come in, and right now I'll build up this underlayer of where these kind of tufts are sitting in here. And it's just about building up those general shapes. One thing you're going to notice is like there's going to be an ugly phase that this stuff goes through.
That's honestly the hardest part for me is trusting the process.
Yes, with color, things always go through an ugly phase. Especially, like, you can be like, ooh, my pencil drawing is so great. And then you're like, I'm ruining it the whole time. Okay. Let's give just a little bit. One thing I like to do is like emphasize, maybe even overemphasize the curviness to the shadows too. So instead of it like blocking straight across, I'll curve it with the shape so that things are really just emphasized. So every line and every choice I'm making with the placement of the shadows is emphasizing the shape that's underneath of it. So here, you know, I can curve in the edges and emphasize the cushion here. I think I'm gonna that probably should have been done in graphite, but I can blend it. Here I'll add a little bit of, I kind of want this to look older and like a little beat up, but I just can't get away from like liking a story in my piece. I think that's why I ended up going more towards theater, is because I had a lot of, I just liked the telling of a story. I also have, it's like the opposite. You know how when you're reading to yourself, if you have an internal narrator that like is reading things to you,
Right.
some people don't have that.
Me and my fiance talk about this all the time, and I just can't comprehend that he doesn't have a voice talking to me all the time. Because I do.
Yeah. My husband learned to stop his so that he could speed read. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, so that I could like read faster. And I was like, no, I can only read at the speed at which I could read it out loud to you.
You know, some people like can't visualize like images and everything.
Yeah. Well, so I have, like, if I read a book, I have a full-fledged movie production, like
100.
like Warner Brothers level, like Harry Potter cinematic universe level production in my head, because those movies ruined my brain as a child. Like, but also very fun. Okay.
I just saw someone else say that they figured out how to stop theirs too, and it was like,
Why?
They want to.
Like,
Like,
I just asked myself, what's my next thought? And I'm like, okay, like, I'll try that. And so I asked myself, what's my next thought? And that did not help at all. Oh, it was a fun game. Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah. I full on can like listen to an audiobook or read a book and have a full cinematic production in my head. They had us like take a test when we were in middle school about like what would be our best career to look forward to, and mine was director of photography, which makes a lot of sense when you're like, oh, your brain just does that. Your brain is just like, and this is how this shot would be done. All right, I have a nice start here. I have a little bit of shading blocked in. I don't have all of it, and I could take some more time, but I think I'm gonna layer it, and I'm gonna come in with an even darker, and this one actually is red, and put it right in the creases here. When I layer the green over this, because it's a cross complement, this is going to darken up and go like very cool. So even though I'm like adding in all of this red and things right now, because I'm putting the green over it, that's going to desaturate it and turn it into my shadows instead of being red. Color theory is so cool, and I encourage you to just play around with it, even if you're like, I'm taking a big risk. It might flop completely on me. Because once you start kind of instinctually being able to pick those colors, you've taught yourself just not muscle memory, but like your brain memory. Choosing colors becomes fun instead of like scary. And also you can grab a whole bunch of like colors in front of students and be like, I'm going to turn this into a green chair. And it's like, but why is it orange? All right. I'm going to come through now with this bright blue. And I'm going to layer it right next to like ultimately what will be my brightest highlights. And that is just going to, I think, push the vividness of it. Blue is what we call brightness intensifier. And so it is going to make everything brighten up in those areas. And when that's right next to the darker areas, it should like really give us like a nice vivid green next to it, which allows our less vivid actual green colors here to not have to do as much work as far as trying to sell what we've layered here. I'm also, one thing to keep in mind is how tightly you're gripping things. Just remember, you don't have to press down super hard. You can grip really nice and loose. Save your hands some pain.
I already have a problem doing that even with
I have to
Right.
think about it where I'm like, okay, relax your hand. The color pencils, you don't have to press so hard. And I am just also not pressing so hard keeps it so that your lines don't get all scribbly. Because if you're laying down and pressing really, really hard, I'll do it over here, into like this to get it down, you're never going to blend that. Because this has crushed any life out of the paper. It has flattened it. I've steamrollered it. And I could like maybe come in just because these are so soft and do some blending, but compared to what it is outside, it's always going to almost like have a chalkiness. And so I like to do little circles if I'm trying to do kind of a fuzzy surface. If I'm trying to do a more woven surface, I'll come across hatching back and forth. Some areas on this chair, I'm like thinking really high level here, are going to be worn down and fuzzier than others. I'm going to keep those areas like in the seat, these circles, whereas things like on the side here, I'm going to hatch in because this does not get as much wear from people sitting on it, right? If we've ever observed a really well-loved chair, that's a key thing is like, or like if these have had the little slip covers over them for a long time, they'll be fresher. I have a chair that's like really quite beat up because my little dog, it's his favorite chair to lay on, but he never thinks anything is soft enough to lay on. He has to scratch at it. I love that chair. My mom got it for me at a garage sale for like $20. Someday I'll recover it, but I'll have to take Mo to the fabric store or something and be like, pick out something you won't scratch up. Upholstery. They do offer upholstery classes through continuing education. And upholstery, it takes, like local upholsterers are like all booked up for forever. So if you learn how, and you, I mean,
I know a few designers that
that,
mention their people's names. It's like, no, because you're going to book them out.
yes. So if you learn upholstery, like that's, I always think every skill that you can learn as a designer benefits you in some way.
Right.
at this point, I call myself more of like a fabricator than anything else because I'm like, if you come to me with an idea, I can figure out how to build it. Like, that is a special skill of mine. We're finally going into the green. So I have these 2 color of green that, since this isn't my final, I have the luxury that I'm just going to swap right here. Okay. This is a bit lighter green than this, I think. Unless they're the same green. They're the same. I was like, did I color darker? Or is that... I'll probably grab another green here in a bit then. I'm going to come across now, and I'm going to keep my lines going with the fabric as I was thinking about it before, that this is a lot crispier, a lot fresher of a fabric. And I'm only layering this in lightly over the color because I'm going to come in with another one. I might choose to blend this and then come in with a second color.
And I wanted to ask that too.
Oh, yeah.
With the colorless blender,
Mhm.
that's a marker, right? Like that
Yes.
you're using, like,
So there are 2 of them. There's a marker and then there's a color pencil one. The color pencil one is technically a burnisher, which means it will give this like a nice smooth blend, but you are layering more wax on there. With the marker, you're not layering the wax, you're just picking up any extra pigment from it and kind of redispersing it together. If you use the marker, you can layer more color pencil over it. The burnisher is going to fill in the wax and it's going to be harder to layer. So I like to use the markers, and then I just buy the ones that are for blending the marker because they're refillable. I can change out the tips, so I just do that when they get clogged up eventually.
And another question.
Yeah.
The blue you use, you said it's a brightener.
It's an optical brightener.
Okay.
So anywhere there where this blue is, that's just blue in general as a color. Especially anything like a cobalt blue and above, in terms of like vividness and saturation. If you start going into indigos and stuff, that's gonna bring down the color, but it will make it appear a bit brighter.
And should you ever use a different tone than what you're using now?
For this
Depending
blue?
on what you're...
Yeah, I could use different tones of blue. This one was one available. 2, it's a nice blue for using for this because, especially with green, it blends nicely with green. If I was trying to do something that is very much the opposite of blue, like an orange, I wouldn't use it. I would use a yellow or something like that. And I would just warm up the tone rather than brightening it. Because I would have to apply this blue so lightly to actually get that brightening effect without going green. And I might not be able to achieve it. You kind of have to test those things out. So notice how when I was going through here, I'm keeping my lines curving in the direction of my like end line. So I had to adjust them from curving a lot more to straightening out. The good news is I can overlap them. I'm going to do the same thing when I come through here. I don't have like a heavy pattern that I'm trying to achieve. Like it's not a plaid or anything. I'm just trying to achieve maybe like a nice like homespun, rough spun-esque like wool fabric. I really love old world stuff that is very much feels very handmade. So that is my, I think just my aesthetic as somebody who makes a lot of stuff. I'm like, yes, anything handmade, anything.
You know,
Modernism is not my thing.
Right. You know the time and energy that's put into it. It should be
Oh, yeah.
more.
Oh man, I have a hard time leaving behind like handiwork at thrift stores that's been like donated where I'm like, somebody spent hours and hours crocheting this and I do not want or need an acrylic blanket that's been crocheted. But especially embroidery. I have a really hard time leaving behind embroidery.
Someone made my firstborn a baby blanket.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
it was quilted, and I made one, and it's so, this is gonna sound bad, but I'm gonna turn it around. It's so ugly, but I still love it so much.
Yeah.
Because she took the time to do it. It's something I'll never get rid of.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things that it's so ugly, it's cute.
Yeah. Oh yeah, where it's like the like homely kitsch.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to like choose to love things. Not that it's ugly, I actually really like it, but my aunt made us blankets when I was like 8. So she made them for her daughters and for my brother and I, which are all the cousins on that side of the family. And her daughters, mostly her oldest daughter, and I like could not sleep without those blankets for a really long time. My brother was not a blanket kid. He did not care. Well, a couple years ago, mine was like literally falling apart. I'm like, I've used this blanket for like 25 years. And there are literally like fist-size holes in it. And I had brought it like with me to my parents' house, and my brother saw it, and he was like, why do you still sleep with that blanket? It's like has holes in it and stuff. And I was like, well, I can't sleep without it very well.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, well, I still have, I was like, I need to like get the pattern from Aunt Lisa or whatever. And he was like, well, I still have mine in my room, and I've literally like never slept with it. Do you want it? And so he went and got it from his room at my parents' house and gave it to me and was like, Merry Christmas. And it's the best Christmas present. We've never told my aunt that he gave it to me.
Yeah.
But I think that she would just appreciate that somebody was using it. I don't think that she would mind.
I've seen people with little baby blankets do like just a piece
Yeah.
of yarn.
When she retires, I think I'm going to beg her. I'm going to be like, I will figure out how to pay you so much money if you can make me one. Or just like find the pattern and give it to me, and I'll have somebody make it. I was like, I'll knit you a sweater. That's like usually what I do with my handcrafts is I'm like, no, you can't possibly afford paying me for it because it took me 12 bajillion hours.
Right.
But I'll trade you for whatever you can craft. I do that with my farm fresh eggs too. I trade people for like sourdough and
That'd be, yeah, but yeah,
I'm like, because like eggs, like it costs a lot to feed chickens, and so like they feel prohibitively expensive. I actually don't charge as much as I should, but I would rather have people eat the eggs than them go bad with me not eating them. Because I'm gonna have these dumb birds anyway.
I have a garden in my backyard.
Ooh.
I had like literally population tomatoes and cherry tomatoes.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, if no one's had a garden, cherry tomatoes in the garden, there's a reason
So
why tomatoes are actually good. Because when you taste the garden, like texture in the garden, tomato, it actually tastes so sweet.
What's really funny about like a tomato that's been ripened on the vine is, well, and also tomato breeding in general. This is my extension life coming back. Is that over the years we've bred tomatoes to be so much sweeter that you actually can't safely can them with water bath canning anymore. You have to add not just like the tomato. You used to be able to like basically put tomatoes in a water bath canning and be good.
Yeah.
You have to add acid now.
But my mom can, so I should probably tell her that. I wonder if
Yeah. Most, if she follows a recipe book,
Yeah.
then it'll tell her to add
I was
acid.
gonna say she probably already has, and I
Yeah.
because it's underneath.
But I don't. I have my friend pressure can them for me. So she's pressure canning them. She's fine. It's just water bath. All right. So I'm going to now blend this. There's a little part of me that's like, this is a brand new blender, and I don't want to use it for this. But I will. So now I'm going to go through And these blend so nicely with a new blender. And I'm just going to come through and really just kind of draw along the lines. Doing all of my blendy stuff. I'm not going to try to blend in the edges too much because I want them to kind of stay there. I'm just trying to blend in these middle fields. And that blue is going to do a lot to combat any red that gets into the, so you can see how where I had the blue here, it's a lot brighter than here where the red is. I'm going to end up adding yet another layer over this, but just blending this all out. If, for example, I really had a warmness to my light on this next layer, I might come in and like bring in some yellows where that is and some more cooler tones where my shadows are. You learn to kind of see color, what I call just like seeing it in Technicolor more vividly than what's really there. And in a drawing, to us, that looks more real than if we were trying to get it to a photorealistic color. You have to exaggerate the colors in order for it to seem accurate. What I'm liking about this is it's giving, like, even some of that other color peeking through is giving it some of that tweedy effect. And because we're using this marker blender, we have plenty of texture left here to lay down more layers. But even I think blending it does a long way to push it to be better coverage. Not as much of the paper is showing through. And so that deepens your color because our brain is trying to blend those little spots of white in with the color and come up with a middle tone. And so just using one of these blenders, which you're totally welcome to use. At the end of the semester, I'll just order new tips and replace them all.
But also, as you clean it off, reappear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like eventually they'll get clogged up. But I bought a bunch more. So we should be good. And then I'm going to come down here in the legs. Maybe I should have cleaned it off a little because it's a little green down there now. But I can color correct that. So I'll just have to put like an orange or something down there to get it brightened back up. Okay. I'm going to come in along any of these lines and maybe I'll use some of this extra stuff to create a little bit of a wooden base there. I've left this little patch and my initial thought was that I was going to leave it as a highlight, but I think I just want it to be like a patch that's going to be sewed on.
Oh yeah, I want it for sure.
I like character. I totally understand that there are like design aesthetics where it's like, oh, maybe, but like if you're illustrating somebody's beloved chair,
Right.
like their grandpa's chair. All right, I'm gonna come
Honestly,
through.
this right here that you got reminds me a lot of like 101 Dalmatians.
Oh
Type
yeah.
of,
Okay. I've come through and I'm using the little circular strokes now to kind of give it a fuzzier look in some areas. Yeah. And now I'm going to clean this off. And you just please remember to clean them off because the longer that all of this pigment and wax sits on there, the deeper it gets into the nib, and the harder it's going to be to clean in the future. I think I have a red one where I'm like, I think it just has to be used on red right now because it didn't get cleaned off well. All right, let me see what we have as far as, ooh, okay, there's like a brighter green, and then maybe I'll grab a blue. Oh no, here's a darker green. I'm being a bit of a snob right now and only going for like my favorite color pencils as well. So I could branch out and be less of a snob. But why when I went and bought all of these? I say this about watercolor paper, but it's true for any art supply. The very worst art supply you can own is the one that you will not use, either because it is so inferior and terrible that you dread using it, or because it's so expensive that it becomes precious and you can't use it because then you'll run out. And I'm like, oh, the best money ever spent on colored pencils is one that I use all the way down to the little nub, because the other ones, until I've used them, that's just money down the drain. All right. Okay, I have this darker colored pencil that I'm going to bring in here and layer in. And right now I'm really trying to build up more texture as well. So I'm keeping my lines a little crisper, pressing just slightly harder, still not too hard. That's the real benefit of buying a super nice colored pencil, is that they're nice and soft and you don't have to labor over getting them to transfer. I don't know. I think these are worth every single penny, and I would rather just buy the colors that I'm really likely to use in these than get a cheaper set where I have a bunch more colors, but honestly I probably won't use them all.
How much are they?
I'll have to check. I think they're somewhere around $4, but they might be less. I might be thinking of markers.
The Copic are definitely.
The Copic are more expensive, although honestly the Blick Studio is not far behind the Copic.
Yeah.
But they're nice. And the Blick Studio you can get for markers. For skin tones, for like my fashion folks, you can get a full skin tone complement for about $35, and you can get a full gray complement for about $35. And then really all you need is a few like inspiration colors from your palette, like for your palette, and you can add on to those as you work on different things. That way it's not, oh, I've spent $500 on markers all at once. I mean, I do that, but I'm buying for a whole class. Also, if you go to Blick, tell them you're a student, you get a discount. They don't even ask you, like, for a ID or anything. So, or at least they've never asked me.
They just maybe set up an account.
Yeah, which, like, it's just your phone number.
They're with my student,
Oh, okay.
but they didn't like do any further verification.
Yeah. They just had me do like my phone number. And then it also does an automatic web match rebate, which is actually really useful at Blick. And then they might email you if you put your email on there, but I asked for them to email me, so I can't complain. Alright.
Pretty sure they don't sell the Copic refill stuff.
Yeah, they have, I think, in a few colors, but it's like the colorless blender in black. That's what they have for their Blick Studio, but you can order them through, like, online. Although they don't have a ship to store option, which I wish they did. Alright, so I'm just continuing to build this up. This time, every time I'm putting in a mark, it's serving a purpose of describing a shape, adding to the overall value. Before, I was going to blend it all out, so I did a little bit, but this time I'm really paying attention to it.
Are you gonna blend again or no?
I might come in a few areas. Just depends on how
just
I
don't
feel
know
about it.
If I did something like that, that would be okay.
In colored pencil, you mean? And blended it again?
No, if it was like, this is how you have it right now.
Oh, yeah. I think stop when you really like what you have, you know?
Yeah.
And it's usually, sometimes you go a little bit far and you can't get back. It's better to stop maybe just a tiny bit early than to go a little bit too far. You can always add to it, taking it away. And now I'm really focusing on coming back in with this green and going back over anywhere where it's still looking too red with the outline, because that will really bring it down to a black. So I almost never actually use black in my drawings. I use color theory to develop a black or a dark gray or a shadow that really fits the drawing. But that comes with confidence and time. Alright, let's give this little patch a bit more consideration. I like to think of it as like a little leather patch that's been put on. And then I might bring in some yellow, just to, maybe if this light is warmer, just to warm up, especially where I've added in this cooler dark green. Because it's just going to make my green a little more vibrant. The nice thing about it is that, you know, it'll make my greens a little more green. Anywhere that's blue that's still peeking through, it'll make that green. And then I don't have to worry about it mixing poorly with my colors under here, because yellow and that looks nice together too. I have this middle like Kelly green that I can bring into in a few areas. And I tend to find that the more colors you layer in, as long as you're sticking in a family, adds depth in color pencil. You don't want to layer in too many colors that are opposing, because then it all goes to that mud water kind of grayish brown. Then come in here and clean up some of this area. I'll come in and blend that in a little bit more. Maybe make some marks in here that just imply like some recessed carving. I don't have to go in and be like, oh, I'm trying to get this little recessed carving thing in. If I just imply it, nobody's coming in and looking at this from like the smallest microscope. Not even me, and I'm grading it. I grabbed this teal too for some of the cooler areas. And it's really about, when you're layering in, choosing vibrant colors to layer together. So if this had been like an indigo blue, it would give me a very different feel than if I'm layering in a teal to darken it, or to green it up where it's gone a little yellow on me. Alright. I'm just going to, I could totally stop here and be like, yeah, I've kind of got this idea where it's like been worn down a little bit. I like that. I have a warmth coming in on this side. Especially like across here is maybe almost so there's a lamp for reading coming through. I'm gonna bring in my blender and just blend a few spots, especially down through these legs and this woodwork down here. I want to be nice and blended. The reds really try to stain, so you have to be on lookout for them. And then I might just bring this back over in a few places to soften any of my lines that I want to soften up. But that's going to build something darker than if you just press down really hard from the get-go. It's just building up these layers. And I think that's looking pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe clean up just along this edge. If I have any little highlights that I want to put in, I can either wait until this is dried from my blending and try to put in some with a gel pen. The gel pen does tend to get a little gunked up from the color pencil. Not as much if I blended it though. Or honestly, like I said, when we're working on designs like this, we're not necessarily trying to work in archival materials. So some whiteout, like you can use a little white gouache, something like that, little white acrylic paint. In this, I don't really feel like there's anywhere where I'm like, oh, I really, really want a bright white shine. I feel like I left in my highlights pretty well. And so, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. It only took me an hour to draw.